I would have loved if someone would have just given me the cheat sheet and said, here's how you get out of here quicker. A lot of homeschoolers are really weird. I was a weird homeschooler, and you can still tell sometimes I'm homeschooled. A lot of people are told that they have to have high school and a certain high school experience, when in actuality it's completely up to you. I'm not that smart. It wasn't because I'm a super crazy genius. My main priority was just bare minimum. What is the least amount of classes I can do in order to graduate with a diploma, basically. And I did. Hi there, welcome back to my channel. My name's Ellie. This is my channel. Hi there, welcome back to my channel. My name's Eleanor, but you can just call me Ellie. And today we're talking all about how I graduated early and how you, how you can do it too. So I just want to preface this by saying I'm no expert. I've just been through a lot of different school systems, like pretty much every type of school system that you could do, except for like ultra rich Blair Waldorf school. I've pretty much done it all. So I've been through a lot of different places, so it pretty much applies to like whoever or wherever you're at, I'm hoping. A little bit of backstory about me. So first of all, I'm currently 18, so this would have been the year that I would have normally graduated. When I was originally in school, I never loved school. I wasn't bad at it. I was a good student, but not because I was smart. It was just because I didn't want to get bad grades. I was just scared of getting bad grades, and I never enjoyed it by any means. I was really bad at studying, and I was okay at homework, and I mostly just went for my friends, which I think is a lot of people's experience, to be honest. I was especially really bad at math. So when I was in my freshman year, I had realized that a lot of the things that were really important to me and that I wanted to do with my life and I was interested in pursuing didn't really align with what I was able to do at my school. Not anything against my school. I don't think it was anything against any school. It was just that I wanted to pursue entrepreneurship and deeper forms of art, and I wanted to learn more about myself, and there really just weren't opportunities for me to do that with my schooling. I went to school, like I said, in a lot of different ways. I had my kindergarten year homeschooled, then first through third grade I went back and forth between homeschool and public school. I went to homeschool for several years, and then 7th grade through 9th grade I went to a private Christian school, and then my last years of high school I actually homeschooled. So when I got to freshman year and I realized that I didn't want to continue with the way that my schooling was going, I actually decided to go to homeschool. So I just want to preface this, first of all, if you hear the word homeschool and you're automatically already clicking off, valid, honestly. Like, as a homeschooler, valid. Because the stereotypes are annoying and hard, but they're not without reason. That's the problem with stereotypes, is that they don't just come from nowhere, they come from something, and it's usually someone. As a homeschooler, I feel like I kind of have the means to be able to say this and it's not going to be offensive. A lot of homeschoolers are really weird. I was a weird homeschooler. The only reason I think I'm not a super weird homeschooler, and you can still tell sometimes I'm homeschooled, is because of the fact that I went to a private and public school in addition, so I had some more social interaction. But homeschooling, and I'm going to do a video on this separately, doesn't have to be the way that you think it has to look. It doesn't mean, you know, like doing no actual school and just like frolicking around in like the daisy fields and calling that your biology lesson, or just being like super weird and awkward. Homeschooling is what you make it, and that's what's really beautiful in it. Now, this is different. For high school, the only main things is you have to get a certain amount of credit loads, and that is how I was able to graduate early. So in my case, I graduated 1 year early. The way that I did it is very specific to me, but it's able to be applied. I essentially combined 2 years of school into 1 year, which I do not recommend. It was very stressful, and I didn't really have a social life that entire school year. But as someone who, like I said before, isn't really so in love with schoolwork, it was hard for me, especially because I can get really defined by that. And so then I was struggling with just like self-worth in general and just being like constantly steeped in schooling. The reason that I did that is because my credit load for the last 2 years of high school, probably if you're a junior you know this, senior credits are a scam. They're literally a joke. There's almost nothing that you need to be doing, and that's why a lot of seniors will either just graduate like a month early or just stop going to school because they only need to come in for like one class. So there's actually not that many credit loads that you need to be able to take. So I just added those into my junior year. But graduating early can look different for a lot of different people depending on what your priorities are. I always tell people this when they ask me if I graduated early. I first say I'm not that smart, it wasn't because I'm a super crazy genius. I just worked hard. And 2, I could have graduated significantly earlier if I'd started this process in freshman year or even in middle school. The reason for that is just that the school system in America, at least, it's set up like babysitting. There's working parents who need to have their kids in school in order for them to be able to stay at their jobs. And so these school days have to be a certain amount of length and a certain amount of years. In actuality, do they need to go that long? Usually not, but it works for most people's families. But if you're realizing this isn't working for me, I'm feeling like I'm going crazy, I need to get out of school, this might be for you. These are the exact steps that I took. 1, I figured out when I wanted to graduate by / what my credit load needed to be. Now, as I've said before, I went fully homeschooled, so that's not something that every person needs to do. Especially if you're like, no, I'm super social, like that is why I go to school. I just want to be done with the like academic aspect of it. I would not recommend fully cutting out. But I will say as a side note, it's not as bad as you probably think it is. I'm not a super social person. I'm definitely introverted, but that doesn't mean that I didn't have social interactions. I was still able to hang out with my friends, still went to proms, homecomings. I wasn't outside of my connections. I just wasn't directly going in the classes and stuff, which to me worked better, but it might not work for you. Now, here's something that's very important. Depending on what school that you go to, there may be certain credits that are required, but they're not actually legally required. So they may be required for your school. For example, you're required to take 3 different language classes, but in actuality, you're maybe only needing to take 2 or even 1. Those are things that you can look up for your individual state and find out what are legally necessary. Because again, certain schools, in order to fill that time, will put in different classes. Are they useless? No, but they might not be applicable to what you're trying to learn, and that should be up for you to decide, not the school. Figuring out which ones are actually necessary, and then figuring out which ones are actually important to you. Because you don't necessarily have to do the bare minimum. If you want to take extra classes, if you're interested in poetry, or you really love language arts, or you want to learn more about history, then take the classes, girl. Love that for you. It's just making sure that it's actually what you want to be doing. For me, my main priority was just getting done. I was so done with school. it was making me actually crazy. My main priority was just bare minimum. What is the least amount of classes I can do in order to graduate with a diploma, basically. And I did. So if you're not looking to actually pull yourself out of school, you can take online courses in order to do this while you are still in school. For most of the time, if you're wanting to take extra credits, you're going to have to be taking that within your own time. So online classes do not have to be expensive. Sometimes you can find them for free, but in other times it's not incredibly expensive. Something that I really, really recommend, and I'm sure everyone has heard about, is Khan Academy. This is not sponsored by Khan Academy, but Khan Academy has gotten me through so many different aspects of life. It is free. It is incredibly intuitive. It works for all types of learning types. And it has almost every single course that you might need. When you're doing homeschool, you are able to write certain things off as a class. So if you take an entire algebra class through Khan Academy, you can say that's your algebra class because it legally was. And at the end of the day, you can also just go look up the program that you need to do and just pay to take that course. So far, I'm only listing online courses. Technically, you can take physical courses, and I'm not opposed to it. Several of the courses that I took were physical courses. I brought the book, the textbook, all of the worksheets, everything, but that is significantly more expensive, and it usually comes in, sorry, I'm like shedding. Like literally, I don't know where my hair is going, but it's just all over me. I feel like a cat. Like what the heck? Ugh. It's also like bugs, like when you feel a bug and you just think there's bugs all over you. Now I just feel like there's hair all over me. Well, there is, but like hair from my head. Physical courses are great. A homeschooling course that I really loved using is this. I'm putting it on the screen because for some reason I can't remember what it's called right now, but I know what it is. This is a Christian course. If you're not Christian, yeah, it wouldn't really make sense for you to use it, but it is still just really good educational content. It focuses on storytelling as opposed to fact learning, which for me was super important, and I actually still remember a lot of things that I learned there, whereas I don't think I can tell you honestly any facts that I learned from my traditional history class experiences when I was in private or public school. So some of the biggest challenges that I experienced when I was doing this is, one, being able to manage my time. If you are not great at managing your time, it's not impossible. I personally am really bad at managing my time. You just have to be aware of that and get people in your life in order to hold you accountable. Because when everything is on you, everything is on you. And there's no teacher who's going to say, hey, you're missing this assignment. There's no person who's going to say, hey, you need to get this done in time. You need to study better. It's just you in there. You're the only person in this class. And so if you realize that you're falling behind, if you're not getting the grades that you need to be taking, yes, it's in your control and you can alter that. But at the end of the day, you're still the one who's getting yourself to graduate. So having the motivation and drive within yourself in order to achieve that is super, super important. And I think accountability partners are incredible, and having people who you can count on to ask you how things are going, and even if you need help, because at the end of the day, you're still a kid. At the end of the day, this style of learning is not for everybody, and I want to make that abundantly clear. There were lots of parts of this way of graduating that did not work amazing for me, and I learned that the hard way. I have a younger brother who did homeschooling at a similar time as me during high school, and he ended up going back to private school because it just didn't work for the way that his brain worked. He needed a lot more structure than he was having, and it was actually a lot more difficult for him to achieve the things that he wanted to, whereas for me, it became easier. But just being aware of that and being honest with yourself, I think is really important. So I hope this all made sense. If I'm missing anything or I have a gap in information, please, please, please let me know. Comment if you guys had any questions or if there was any other things that I talked about that you'd like me to go into a little bit deeper. If you like this kind of thing, you can obviously subscribe. I just wish more people knew about this, because I had to go through it the hard way, and I would have loved if someone would have just given me the cheat sheet and said, here's how you get out of here quicker. And if you heard this entire thing and you're like, that sounds like a lot of work, I'm out. Totally fine. Totally fine. But I just want more people to know that there are other options out there as opposed to what they've maybe been told or what they even think for themselves. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please feel free to stay posted for future videos. I'm trying to be on my grind. But anyhow, see you so much and love you later. Bye!